Hello, Julie here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to make 2 cards, and for both of those cards I'm going to use Kaisercraft's Secret Garden 6.5 inch paper pad. So let's start with this card. I made 2 card bases out of plain white cardstock and I made them 4¼ inches square. I actually meant to make them 5.5 inches square, but they ended up being 4¼ inches square. So I'm going to choose 1, 2, 3 papers, I think, from this 6.5 inch pad to create this card with. I've cut the first piece of pattern paper to 4 inches square, and then I've cut a piece of this glittery mesh that my mother gave me actually, to be about 4¼ inches square. Now I've chosen my second piece of paper and I'm going to make that so it's slightly smaller so you can still see the glitter mesh poking out from behind. This ribbon that I'm using here, or lace, also came from my mother when I visited her over Christmas. I cut the lace so it's the same length as the width of the green paper that I'm going to put on here, and I cut a piece so that it can be used at the top and the bottom of the green piece. I play around with using the pink piece but decide to just go with the green with the gold top and bottom. I have the collectibles pack for this collection, so I have a flick through there and try and pick out what I think I might use to embellish my card. I decide to add some gauze behind my embellishments. I decided I liked the idea of having a butterfly on my card, but the one that was in the pack was too big for my liking, so I decided to create one. I used the Kaisercraft Butterflies stamp and die set. I stamped the butterfly onto some of the pink paper and with my Versamark ink, and then I sprinkled it with the Stampendous Aged Gold embossing enamel and heat it with my heat gun. It gives a bumpy type of texture to the embossed image. Then I used the die to cut the butterfly out. Now that I'm happy with all of the elements for my card, it's time to start assembling it. First of all, I ink around the edge of all of the pattern papers and embellishments. Using double-sided tape, a hot glue gun and glue, I attach all of my layers to the card base. I trim the green sparkly mesh to fit the size of the card, and I use foam tape to attach the centre section of the papers that the embellishments are going to be attached to. I used my hot glue gun to attach the lace, the gold lace, to the centre panel at the back, and then I also used some of the hot glue to attach the centre panel to the cardstock or the card base, because the foam tape I find doesn't always stay where it should, except on your scissors. I also use my hot glue gun to attach my embellishments because that will go through the gauze and hold that in place at the same time. Before I attach the butterfly to the card, I use these Inspiring Craft Ideas tiny gems and attach 3 of those to the body of the butterfly. These are self-adhesive, but I like to add some Aleene's Original Tacky Glue to make sure that they stay in place, because I've found that they quite often come off if you don't do that. Now that my butterfly is finished, I attach that to my card using my hot glue gun. The greeting for this card says "For You." I'm making this card to send to my mother with a little surprise gift for her. I printed it on my computer and now I'm just trimming it down to size. I only wanted a small greeting because there's not a lot of room left on this card. Once I've cut the greeting to size, I use a piece of the pink pattern paper that I made the butterfly out of to mat the greeting. I ink around the edges of both of those, attach one on top of the other and then attach it to the card. That completes our first card for today. This is our second card. To create this card, I'm going to do a lot of stamping and embossing and flower making. I've recently bought some Heartfelt Creation stamps. I didn't buy the dies, much to my disappointment at this stage. After cutting all of these flowers out, I think I might go back and get the dies. Each of the flowers are created in the same way. This one is the Heartfelt Creations Daisy Patch Flowers, HCPC 3318, and I stamp each of the layers, in this particular case there's 5 layers, with my Versamark ink and then sprinkle it with some fine black embossing powder. I've chosen a checked, pink and white checked paper from the paper pad to be the base of this particular flower. So I do that with each of the 5 flowers and then heat emboss it. Once I've completed all 5 layers of this flower, I take my scissors and fussy cut each one. Now that I have all of the layers of my flower, I'm going to do a bit of shaping for the flower, each petal or each layer of the flower. I spray it lightly with water, not too heavily, otherwise they're too easy to break, and you'll see that I probably do break one here. Anyway, I use this round edge tool to just push lightly into the back of the petal to sort of give them a raised effect on the front so that they've got a nice curve to each layer. Once I've done that for all 5 layers, I use my Aleene's tacky glue to apply each layer on top of each other. There's the one I broke, and set them so that they're offset, so that the petals are not sitting on top of each other but as staggered. Once I've done that, I use my tool to push onto my soft mat to give the flower some lift. I then add a clear gem to the centre of the flower to finish it off. I go ahead and do the same procedure with the Heartfelt Creations Tattered Blossoms stamp, and I choose a white embossed, glossy embossed card from the card pack to create this flower. I do the same shaping technique as I did for the other flower as well, and the same gem for the centre. The third flower that I created is the Delicate Asters stamp from Heartfelt Creations, and I used a blue embossing powder for this particular flower, and I just did this one on plain white cardstock. I also did some heat emboss some leaves from that same aster stamp pack. I did emboss a couple with black and one with green. I don't end up using the green one. I use a slightly different method to shape this flower. I just wrap it around a thin tool. Now that I've got my flowers ready to embellish the card, I'm going to start work on the card itself. I start by choosing 3 pattern papers from the pack, and I cut these down in size so there's only a 1/16 of an inch border all the way around each paper. So the card base is 4 1/4, so the first one down is 4 1/8, and next one is 4 and decreases in that fashion. But I put a layer of white cardstock between each pattern paper. When I actually put this card together and distress and ink the edges, it's very hard to see the pattern paper, but it is there and it is noticeable. So here you can see I'm using my Prima Distress tool to distress each of the edges of the card, and then I'm going to use my Kaisercraft black ink to go over the distressing. I do this for each of the layers of the card. I'm looking for a shabby chic look. Now that all of my edges have been treated in this way, I use double-sided tape to layer from the bottom up so that they gently decrease in size. It's time now to decide which flowers to use. I don't end up using the first one I created. I use the other 2 and 2 of the leaves, or actually 3 of the leaves. Once I've decided where I want them to be positioned, I use my Aleene's original tacky glue to attach them to the card front. Once again, I only want a very small greeting for this card because the 4 1/4 inch size card does not leave a lot of room for any large sentiments. So I keep a sheet of printed sentiments in my folder, and so I've just selected one of those. I've matted it on a piece of pattern paper, and I'm using foam tape here to back it, and then I'm going to use that to attach it to the card. Now that my greeting is in place, my card is complete. So that's the second card for today. I hope you've enjoyed watching my video. If you have, please subscribe to my channel. If you click the bell next to the subscribe button, you'll be notified each time I upload a new video. Thank you for spending your time here with me today.